your mind.
Hello and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. A very good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 4th of May 2014. We had a little bit of a glitch there, but we got that sorted. I hope you can hear us now. Fingers crossed. So let us know in the chat room if you can hear us. Again, good evening, and we just hope that everything's okay. We just happened to say earlier on that today is the 4th of May, and this is a Star Wars day for the Star Wars fans. You know, may the 4th be with you. So anybody celebrating that, good luck with that one. But before we move on, Steve, you want to let us know what the communication channels are?
Okay, I'll pass it over to Mary. Mary, communication channels, please.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thank you, Mary. 046 1212 is the hotline number for your calls this evening. We also have the chat room as well on oymradio.com. If you want to log into our own chat room, it's oymradio.com and click on the live chat button on the left-hand side. Say hello to everybody who's in there at the moment. We're also going to be monitoring the PIR, peoplesinternetradio.com chat room as well. So if you have any questions for our guest this evening, you can post it into either of those chat rooms, or you can ring in on the phone, as we say. If you're going to ring in from outside the Republic of Ireland, don't forget it's 00353 469 271212. Alan.
Cheers, Steve. I just noticed a question on the chat facility there, Snowflake 15. Can anyone tell me where to get the hemp oil? Well, next week we're planning to have a guest on called Dr. Rima, and she has a website where she sells the actual hemp oil. And as far as I know, based on the questions I asked during the week on our customs, if it's for personal use, apparently you should be able to get it in. But we will have Dr. Rima on next week, and she has a website full of the hemp stuff. So we will be getting all that information out. So tune in next week. We also have the United We Strike Marathon, which we'll touch base with later. But Steve, you've something to tell us first.
Yes, I do. Just in relation to our guest last week, which was Paul O'Connor. That was the remote viewer. And if you remember, Paul was he was very kind, and he offered us a voucher of €100 discount for any member of the OYM. Well, anyone who's listening to the broadcast at all. You can log into. Sorry, he did say just Google Paul O'Connor and remote viewing. You will see his website there, and there's a link to Eventbrite. He is running a training day. That's level 1 basic 3-day intensive training. It's going to be on the 10th, the 11th and the 12th of June in 2014. That's this year. And he did offer us a €100 discount for anyone who wants to take part over those 3 days. And all you have to do is pop along to the website, to his own website, or to the Eventbrite, and type in the voucher code OYM Radio. And that's going to be €100 off the price. It can be used any time up to the close of ticket sales. And if they combine it with early bird tickets, they can get €200 off the cost of training. It's a fantastic offer, because it's well worth it as well. Because when you actually look up the prices are €895. That's what I seen anyway. It's a little bit out of my price range, but you know. I'm sure somebody who's really, really interested in learning remote viewing, who can get €200 off, it'll be well worthwhile.
Definitely. If you want to pop over to polusintelligence.com.
Yeah, I couldn't remember that.
Yeah, Polus, Polus intelligence.com is the website there to find out more about that course and the information about Paul O'Connor, who we had on last week. Okay, the next thing that we're just on our list to talk about is, you probably all heard about Ben Gilroy. Ben got a 4 weeks suspended sentence for his contempt of court. And, you know, I'm just curious, what happened to people who were lying on the affidavits in the court case that Ben was dealing with? You know, I mean, talk about complete corruption. And obviously we have the Anglo-Irish bankers, Whelan and McAteer, and they get off with community service. And, you know, they literally screw the country. And they get off with community service, and Ben has a contempt of court, and he gets 4 weeks suspended sentence. I mean, talk about living in a banana republic. That's how bad it is. And there's so much more corruption that we can see going on over here in Ireland. It's unbelievable the level of corruption. They're putting it right in our face. And they just don't seem to care. They just think, the Irish people are, they suffer from apathy. They just won't give a damn. They won't do anything about it. They'll just sit in their arse and do nothing. Well, for people who went over to our Facebook page, you've probably seen an image that was we put up there. And we said that we are in a political war at the moment. And during 1942, during the Second World War, a lot of people made an effort. They did something for the war effort. No matter how small it was, they did something to help the war effort, to help the troops. Now, because we're in a political war, I'd like to ask the same question. What are you doing for the war effort? Basically, what are you doing? Even if it's only something small, what are you doing for the war effort? Because we need to get these people out of government, because they're going to... they are destroying the country, but if they get in again, one of these parties get in again, we're going to be in worse trouble than what we are now. All these people getting evicted. Steve, you've seen the list going around.
I've seen the list,
unbelievable.
Yeah. It was something like 100 people, or over 100 people on the list, and that was just for one day in one particular court. 100 people for evictions. It's a disgrace. It's
a disgrace. And I've seen another list from another party who are, again, promoting participatory democracy, which is the same as direct democracy, and they had a list in Galway of about 120, 129 on that day alone. That's phenomenal. That is just unbelievable. Where are these people going to go if they're being evicted from their homes?
They're going to be homeless, obviously.
It's incredible.
Come here, before you move on, you just mentioned about the upcoming elections and all, and the different parties and all this, the corrupt ones who are running this country into the ground. I think it's almost completely run into the ground. I don't think there's too much more to go. But I found myself out of the house yesterday and in front of a television set. It just happened to be somewhere while the 6 o'clock news was on here in the Republic of Ireland. And I couldn't believe it. Now, I've seen some information on the net during the week. These Gallup polls and all these different companies that do polls.
Yeah.
And from what they've been saying in the polls, a lot of the independent not TDs, but the candidates, a lot of the independents are ranking fairly high in the poll.
Good.
As is DDI.
Good.
They're also saying that in the poll, an independent poll, that Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and Labour are doing quite badly. Right? Now, 6 o'clock news yesterday reported. Now, bear in mind, I generally don't watch the news, so it was a novelty for me to be sat in front of a TV set when it was on. But the news reporter just sat there and reported that in recent polls, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and Labour, they're not doing quite too badly at all. And with some of the counties have maybe one seat, some of the counties have 2 seats or 3 seats available. They're saying that the Fine Gaelers, the Fianna Fáilers, and the Labourers, that they're more than likely guaranteed a seat, because they're doing fairly well in the polls. And this is again, I'm sitting there going, oh my Jesus, propaganda! It's just it's government propaganda. I was getting angry. They said, and they reckon that in one county, which I can't remember, that one of the Sinn Féin candidates is doing quite well there, but they reckon this Fine Gael guy, he was a shoo-in. That seat was already his name was on it, That's how comfortable they were, and they reckon the second seat in that particular county may go to a Sinn Féin candidate. But they said some of the independents are kind of gaining ground as well, but there was no mention of any other parties. They just focused on the 3 main ones who are screwing the country. RTE are, a propaganda station.
In their charter, it says that they are impartial. Yeah, right. Okay, dream on. I've already sent that email into RTE saying, showing, explaining, talking about their charter, and then saying to them that there's no way that they are. And they know it as well. They're a semi-state body. They're going to be controlled by the government anyway. You don't get funding. But
look, at the end of the day, from what we've seen time and time again, even on American TV, I think there's a video floating around YouTube at the moment, has been for a while, that no matter what's put up on the teleprompter, the person who's sitting there, who's getting paid just to read the news, will just read out whatever is on the teleprompter. They don't care. They're programmed robots.
That's it. Exactly. That's what it is. So Yeah, it's getting worse, so we really need to, the war effort, we need to do something. Now, the other thing I have is, obviously we just heard that Jerry Adams has been released, but it's just so funny that he was taken right where the elections were going on.
Isn't that mad, isn't it?
So coincidental.
It's unbelievable. Politically motivated, I believe.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And just keep him in for a few days and let all the media stations know that Jerry Adams was taken.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's pretty much a case of Sinn Féin the government know that there's probably bugger all chance of them getting re-elected. So they're kind of looking at the Sinn Féin group, or the Shinners as they're fondly known, going, they're kind of doing fairly well. We have to kind of throw them into disrepute. So, let's bring in Jerry Adams.
Yeah.
Politically motivated, as I just said. That's all it was. It was a publicity stunt brought to you by the Irish government.
By the way, I was going to say, I don't know whether you had a look at some of the posters. I'm sure the people have looked at them, and some of them are so either very badly photoshopped, or they are overdone with Photoshop, or as you pointed out, they had...
Oh, I have that written down here. Right,
well,
yeah,
over
go ahead.
No, over to your week.
Yeah, no.
Your week.
It's funny. That was why we get. It's funny. Alan and I were standing at a telegraph pole last Wednesday, shooting the breeze as you do, and we're looking up at the posters for the candidates for the upcoming election, May 23rd, and of course it was Alan who was looking at one, going, "Oh my God!" Now I didn't even notice it, but Alan did, fair play. He said, "Look how badly photoshopped that is." I wouldn't have even copped it, but he was pointing out how badly photoshopped it was. Fair play. He doesn't need glasses anyway. That's a good thing.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. But what I noticed with three of these are different candidates. It's probably all the same backdrop, but around where I am, there's three candidates. I think one Fianna Fáil, two Fine Gael, and I've been around. I was in Dublin over the past couple of days as well, and there's so many posters out there, and a lot of the kind of the bigger players, if you like, the Fianna Fáilers and the Fine Gaelers, almost every poster, has chemtrails in the background. Because that's the new norm, remember, boys and girls. So chemtrails in the background. I noticed it on one. I noticed it on a second one. This was only during the week going in and out to work, and then over the past couple of days, I've noticed it more and more and more. I don't know if anyone else has noticed. I keep saying, you know what, I must get a few pictures take them on my phone and stick them up on the web, but I couldn't be bothered, to be totally honest with you. So yeah, have a look around yourself and just kind of, well, if you haven't seen it already, it's worth noting anyway. And the only other thing that I want to mention really is, I've heard this today, so much going on this week, there really is. I mean, there's a hell of a lot. Like there's a new video up there by Simon the Spaniard, White Rabbit, talking about credit card debt, how you can offset your credit card debt, and you can kind of put it on hold. He was talking about the whole system, the way there's just such of a backlog. He said, essentially you could put your credit card payments, if you have a dispute, send in an email or a letter to the company, and then just wait. He said there's a 6-month backlog on one item, there's nearly a 12-month backlog on something else, and he said by the time you're finished, you can essentially put your credit card payments or your mortgage or any other, he said, on hold for up to 25 years.
Fantastic.
You know, and we love Simon.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's an article that I've seen today. There's a lot of articles that I've seen during the week, and you kind of say, well, which one will I mention? But you just don't know, and we don't have all night. So I'm just going to mention one, and it's about a new Bible that was found. I don't know if people have seen it. It's on the net. I do have it open here on the page in front of me, and I'm going to pop the link. I'm not going to read it all out, but I will pop the link in the description or in the chat box. But it's talking about a Bible it's supposed to be 1500 years, Syriac Bible found in Ankara in Turkey. Seemingly the Vatican are in shock. It tells a lot of different stories than the ones that we obviously these were different stories that weren't put into the final edit, if you like. But they're saying, like, some of them are saying that Jesus was a man. He was more of a prophet. He wasn't the Son of God. And they're saying that he wasn't crucified. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole religious thing, but it was just interesting to see that it has come up. But the book itself, they're saying that its estimated value is 40 million Turkish liras. That's about $28 million or 20 million euro. And I said, I'm going to pop the link in. It's kind of worth a read. Because, the good book that we see on the shelves today, or that's, used in church and all, that's supposed to be the the genuine article and the Word of God and all this, and now this thing is after coming up and kind of throwing a spanner in the works. But they're saying that the Vatican is in shock anyway, so that can't, well, sure, it wouldn't take much there. But anyway, there we go. That's about the size of it. I'm not going to rattle on too much because I know we're on the clock here. So how was your week?
Not too bad. Just again, as usual, just a couple of things to mention. I have expressed an interest in joining a party, and I've been talking to a couple of people about it, because I know we run the radio show and there's an awful lot behind the scenes with the radio show. I know we only do 2 hours Sunday, but as Steve will tell you, there's an awful lot more that goes on in the background of what we're doing, and we're involved in other projects. But again, I just feel that we need to get involved more, again, it's down to time, but look, if I become a representative of a party and I can take 100 votes away from the mainstream parties, then my job's done. I'm happy with that. I'm not going to try and get into the Dáil or get elected or anything like that. Purely, if I can take votes off the mainstream parties, then brilliant. That's part and parcel. So I'm talking to them anyway. There's nothing for definite, and there's nothing in set in stone, but I'm having a chat with them anyway. So we'll get back to that.
It's going to be named after you, is it?
Yeah. The OYM. Direct Democracy Party. The OYM Party.
Actually, that has a nice ring to it. The OYM Party. Vote OYM.
Now, Steve expressed an interest in this because I emailed him during the week. Would you believe, I got an email in during the week from a Chinese supplier asking me, am I interested in buying aspartame? Right? And they're a leading aspartame supplier in China, and they'd like to offer me aspartame to buy it in bulk. Now, when I told Steve this, he said, because this is Steve's area, he said, show me the spec. So I sent it over to him. Did you have a chance to have a look at it?
No.
Okay.
I don't even remember getting the email. Remember I told you during the week my email was acting up?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no,
you didn't get it?
No,
okay, I'll send it to you again, because you'll be able to look at it. You'll be able to see yourself.
But it'd be good. I mean, good to have a spec off that. But I can't believe they actually ask you if you want to buy some.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I find even more kind of mind-boggling is that you bought it. He has it all out in the back garden. About 3 tons of aspartame. He was pouring it down the drain there when I came up. So it's going into the water supply. I don't know, it'll mix with the fluoride, and God knows what'll happen.
No worries at all. Snowflake, that was me there, for the link. I'll just put it in there. Just in case people need to know, they might get confused. OYM admin 1 is me, and OYM admin 2 is Steve. Just in case there's some confusion there. Right, and the last thing on the list before we get a guest in, because we know a little bit behind, is that we got some insider information sent to us, and it was a 17-page document, and it says Space as an Area of Responsibility, AOR, and it says here, and this is 17 pages, I'm just taking what the actual document says here. It says, space is a region with increasing commercial, civil, international and military interests and investments. The threat to these vital systems is also increasing. The space AOR is global and requires a combatant commander with a global perspective to conduct military operations and support regional war fighting. US Spacecom is the only military organization with operational forces in space. Establishing space as an AOR merely states an operation reality. So US Spacecom is the only military organization with operational forces in space.
That's interesting to know.
That was sent to us by an insider, 17-page document.
Wow. Is that for public viewing, or is that just, no, maybe?
I'll just check with the person
right
first before we can release it. Okay? But yeah, it's interesting and has all top military brass people named in it as well, so we'll have to be careful. Okay, without further ado, that's the information anyway during the week. Without further ado, we're going to get Ole Dammegard on. Now, Ole was on the show before. We had a half an interview with Ole, and we said to him that we'd get him on again and play catch-up and find out what's been going on. Mindful of information. He actually had to leave his own country because of certain things that happened. But what we're going to do is we're just going to get a catch-up with Ole, and he'll give us a background on his information, and we'll take it from there. Good evening, Ole. How are you?
Good evening. I'm very good, thank you.
Great stuff. Listen, thanks a lot for coming on the show. Much appreciated. I forget the time. I mean, it's probably a year and a half, 2 years since we've had you on the show. Probably something like that.
I would say less, but something like that.
Yeah, and I know we had a very good interview, and we said we'd do a part 2 with you, and obviously we're here now, so that's brilliant. But for people who didn't actually hear the initial interview that we did, can you just give us a bit of a background of what happened and what you're doing, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, my name is Ole Dammegard. I was born in Denmark, but moved to Sweden when I was a kid. And I grew up in a family that were very deeply involved in the resistance movement against the German occupation during the Second World War. So I grew up with all these stories about, my dad was in the resistance movement, my granddad was in jail for helping Jews, my grandmother's sister was smuggling guns in a baby cot and so on. And so I grew up with all these stories about the importance of standing up for what is true and right. And even though you're up against a massive enemy, in that case, the big German war machine, I mean, the size of Denmark is like a kitchen garden, so the odds were very much against them. Anyway, I grew up with that, and then we moved to Sweden when I was a kid, and one of my first jobs were as a journalist. And while working as a journalist, I started becoming very interested in the JFK assassination. I would say almost obsessed with it. I read a couple of 100 books. And while I was doing that, I started to learn more and more also about the assassination of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Robert Kennedy, and so on. And after a year or two or so of very deep studies of this, I started to see almost like a template, like a bullet point list of how a political assassination was carried out on a high level, how it was blamed on a crazy lone patsy, and how the general population was duped into thinking that this was the deed of a madman. Then, while I was doing that, the Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme was shot down in the streets of Stockholm, and which was an absolute shock, a national trauma in Sweden, because up until then, I mean, Sweden, as far as most people knew, there were no corruption, no violence, no anything, it was the perfect place to live. You could trust the police, all of these things. But what I started seeing very early on was that, my God, it's like they're using the same template in Sweden as they were using in the 60s and 70s in the States. And I started to track down the same type of template in Chile, Argentina, South America, South Africa, Germany, and so on. And it just came to a point where I felt that if what is happening in Sweden is actually following the same template, they must somehow be connected, all of these different acts. So from that point on, I started looking from the whole thing from a more of a global perspective, trying to sort out what was going on. And this is 30 years down the road. I've spent, I don't know, thousands and thousands of hours trying to find out what is actually going on behind the scenes, what is pushing the world into what they try to push us into, this dark, very controlled, very violent place, instead of letting the world develop into this beautiful, harmonious place that it's designed to be. So, well, during these years, I went very deep into these things. I tracked down foreign agents, assassins, all types of people in Sweden that was involved in the assassination of the Swedish Prime Minister, which is to this day, just like the JFK assassination, is blamed on a lone crazy guy that has absolutely nothing to do with it and was later murdered. Even though they say that he died from epilepsy, but he was taken care of. But anyway, it came to a point where after 12 years in Sweden, going very deep into this, I came to a point where two of my friends got murdered because they were going too deep in, and I had a visit as well, which scared the shit out of me. And I just felt that it's time for me, if I don't want to become part of the statistics of all these suicided people or accidents or whatever you want to call them, that time for me to go. So I left Sweden and moved to Spain.
Well,
and I've been here since the year of 2000.
What did they say to you when they paid you a visit?
They did. I never met them personally. They were there when I wasn't at home. But that is one of the, like to eliminate someone. It's quite messy, and it can lead to a lot of problems for these powers. So what they try to do is scare you first, or discredit your personality or you as a person through scandals or setups or something like that. But with me, what they did was one day when I wasn't at home, somebody got into my apartment. They passed the locks. I had double locks on. And they went in there and they just rearranged stuff in my apartment. They put books on the table. They took the bookshelves and moved them around. They took my toothbrush from the bathroom, put them in the kitchen where the cutlery is. And they took one of the photos I've taken of the murder site and stuffed it in this where the water exits, so that the water had dissolved the photo. So it was this photo of the murder site, but the colors had turned into like running blood. But the thing with this type of intimidation is that what can you do? You call the police and say somebody has put books on my table, and put my toothbrush in the kitchen. You can't. They will just, say this is a crazy guy, go away.
Yeah.
But what they tell you, what they point, and I'm not the only one, so that's why I know this is the way they do it. They go in there, they point at you, and they say, "We are aware of you. We got our eyes on you, and if you do not back off, things will happen." So this is exactly the same way the mob works, and also my motorbike was 3 times in 1 week was moved 100 meters from where I parked it. These things that sounds paranoid, but when you see who you're up against and you see a pattern, when you study other cases, you get the message. And then when these 2 friends was murdered with a short interval at the same time, I just felt this is getting too close, so I decided to leave.
That's a common experience by TIs as well, targeted individuals, where they come in and they just find things moved around in their flat or their house, and if you didn't know what being TI was, you would actually probably think you're paranoid. But
exactly.
More and more people, we do get emails from people who are TIs, and they say that this is occurring. I mean, one of the things out of many things that are happening to them. So it's an experience, but you've gone to the next level where they actually threatened you basically, and you had to move. How are you finding it in Spain now?
Great. It's tricky financially. Spain has been under very heavy attack by these global forces that we're talking about. So the financial situation was just kicked out of totally out of balance some years ago. But it's fine. It's slowly getting back on their feet again. But otherwise than that, I feel a lot better here than I did in Sweden. Yeah,
definitely. Well, things over here in Ireland are pretty grim, and we are being destroyed by the current government. They're just doing everything that Europe is, telling them to do, and the amount of evictions and foreclosures that people are suffering from, across the country is unbelievable. I mean, we are all suffering. I mean, myself and Steve are no different. And everybody's near. I mean, most people are just a paycheck away from losing their house, and the banks are just, they're just getting away with blue murder. And the government's letting them, and so that's why things have to change here. But you said there was a template that they use. Can you describe or tell us what this template is? So for our listeners, if we, any more false flags come about, they can go, okay, that's the template that Ole discussed on OYM.
Okay, this is not a template I found. This is a template I discovered. So it's not nothing in written. It's just by comparing many of these different so-called terror acts.
Well, do you want to use the Woolwich, the false flag Woolwich as an example?
If I can go into the template first, and then if you still want, what do you want? A terror attack or a mass shooting? Terror attack.
Yeah.
Let's go for a terror attack.
Let's go for a terror attack. Yeah.
Yeah, they're similar. They're similar. The way they do these things are an old Roman tactic called problem, reaction, solution. You know, like if you go back in history in the 70s, you had several coups d'etats in South America where the power, generally led by people like Henry Kissinger, George Bush Sr. and so on, they were targeting different countries and took them out with the help of military from that country itself.
So that would also be called the Hegelian dialectic.
Exactly, that's exactly the one I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
And when they did this, you know, when the military took over, they made a coup d'etat and they got into a power position overnight. You know, they killed the old president, great, and we're in here. But what happened when you did it like that, suddenly when the population discovered that, oh my God, we got a military dictatorship here, what's going on? There were all these, they had to mass arrest people, they had to fill up football stadiums, you know, with arrested people, they had to torture them to get them to tell where the rest of the people are, they had uprisings, demonstrations, guerrilla movements, all of these things ending up so that in the end they almost had to have as much military in the streets as they had population. So that was a very messy way of doing it. So the way instead that they do it is that they secretly create a problem to get a reaction from us, the public, so that they can come with a solution. So, for instance, if on Ireland, I don't know the situation now, but let's say that the people in power there, I'm talking about a global network, so it's not just one single country. They do this in the whole Western world and many other places as well. So if, for instance, if I want the police on Ireland to drive around in tanks, have drones that can just blow up anyone at any time, I want the cops to look like RoboCops and walk around with bazookas, whatever, be able to kick in doors without warrants and so on, and people to be detained forever and ever without even a lawyer. If I was the one in power and I just did that, I would have massive problems with uprising, the exact same things, demonstrations, uprisings, guerrilla movements, you know, I could have economical boycotts from other countries because they thought I'd gone totally mad and all of it. So that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to secretly create a problem. And in this case, what this group has been using many, many times are bombs. Why bombs? Because they're very spectacular. Because they are aiming to get an emotional reaction from the population. Not so that they won't use the brain between the ears that God has equipped us with, but go with the emotions. So what they do is that they secretly place a bomb, and it needs to be placed in a public place. And it needs to be very, the place where it's very important where the location is. It needs to be somewhere near where there are lots of people going to and from work, or in a supermarket or a hospital or something like that. Old people's home doesn't work, anything like that, or out in the countryside, or blow up animals or something, it doesn't work. It needs to be emotional. So what they aim for is mostly women and children. And very often they also somehow get nuns and nurses involved, either blown up or helping afterwards. It's all a matter of how to get the emotional response from the public as powerful as possible. Okay, so what I do is I place this bomb. Let's say I do that in Dublin, in the train station or something like that. And in the meantime, while I'm doing this, when I'm getting the bomb and everything sorted out, I also prepare a drill. Very often, ever since 9/11 and even before that, very often they're carrying out a drill at the same time.
Yeah.
And this drill is doing exactly the same as the so-called terror act later. So it's a drill that halfway through suddenly go live. And many of the people who are part of the drill have absolutely no idea that it's actually happening for real. Like with the 7/7 bombings, like there were police standing outside the subway stations, and people were just, you know, stumbling out, blown to pieces, and they were like, "Oh my God, it looks so real." Not even helping the people, because they thought, "My God, they're doing an incredible job. These makeup artists, my God, look at that arm that has been blown up. It looks so real." They didn't understand that it actually had happened.
That was uncanny that they were doing the drill on the exact same day at the exact same tube stations as the one that got blown up.
It's 7/7, 9/11. You got Boston bombings. You got many of these. There's a drill going on. The Norway shootings, the mass shootings there. They do it on a very regular basis. So watch out for these live drills. When they say we're going to do a drill there, stay away. Anyway, so the drill is being prepared, and at the same time you prepare a patsy. Now this patsy is very often someone you have problems with anyway. Or let's say it could be any type of, it could be like the growers of veggie burgers, or it could be a yoga group, or nowadays it's truth seekers. We're the next terrorist. It used to be the East European people, during the Cold War. They loved the East Germans and the Russians because, the boogeyman coming from the East.
Yeah.
Then when the wall came down, they needed a new one, so they went for the Muslims, which were perfect because they work really well on in media. They're dark, big moustache, names like Abdul Khalam Khalupala, coming from a country that most people don't even know. So they're great as a boogeyman. So they used the Muslims for quite a while. Then that went out of fashion. So now they're going so that you will start fearing everyone. So now the boogeyman has become more and more often they're blue-eyed, they're blonde, just so that it could be just anyone. Anyway, so you prepare this patsy. What you do is you prepare evidence, fake evidence, false evidence that is going to point directly to this group or person as soon as the bomb goes off. Yeah, and very often, sometimes they have these person involved in the drill to get them in position. The drill is also there to get the explosives in position as well without anyone noticing it. Because they just see it as, and they're setting up the film screen set,
Yeah.
No, they're not. They're placing the real bombs. Okay, and what you do also, you leak out information about this group or this person in media that you control to a large extent. You just pump out, slowly you leak out that, these truth seekers, they're getting very violent, and maybe they have hidden guns somewhere, and they're really into conspiracy theories. Maybe they're planning something.
Yeah.
You leak that out through media, and just like you said in beforehand, that with these teleprompters, the guy reading the news and the truth seekers are planning whatever you say on these prompters, they will read out. No brain of their own to criticize it.
Tell us a bit about the. I don't know. As we talked just before the show, we don't want to spend too much time on Woolwich, but tell us about Woolwich and the scenario with that.
Okay, the Woolwich is if you see the official version and then what happened. If you look at if that had been a real event, very much the official story, don't you? That this guy was supposed to have chopped off the head and pulled the guy out. Yeah, you know these details.
Yeah.
Okay. If you look at a thing like that happens, the nature of the human being is that people surrounding a violent act like that would somehow be shocked or try to intervene or throw rocks at the violent guy, the murderer, or hit him with a stick or somehow react. When you look at the Woolwich beheading, there's absolutely no reaction in the background. And I spent quite a few years working as an extra, doing commercials and stuff like that, working in backgrounds, sitting in backgrounds, talking, the background action in commercials, all of these type of things. So I spent a lot of hours sitting, being very bored, and just looking how these film sets are built up. And when you look at these false flag operations, you will very often see the exact same setup as in a film setup, because they're the same thing very often. And with for instance, when you have a film shoot, it may be Coca-Cola or whatever it is, you will need a certain amount of extras. Like these extras are always driven to the site in buses, 1 or 2 buses, depending on how many you need. Then you have equipment like lighting, cameras, clothing, all of these things. For some reason, most film companies use white trucks. That's my experience, at least. And then when everything is set up, the main characters, the film character or the director, arrive at the site in a private car or cabs. Okay, so if you look at the beheading in Woolwich. It happened midday right in the center of London. Lots of traffic, it's midday, lots of traffic. But when you see what's happening, there's absolutely no cars, there's no horns, there's no queues, no people coming out shouting, screaming, my God, I'm getting late for work, what's going on? Nothing. Except what you see in the background are like just people standing, not even looking at this guy. I mean, he's just chopped the head off someone. It's an absolute horror scene. No reaction. They're not even looking at him. There are people on their way home from the supermarket, women just passing him. He's standing there with a big bloody axe, and they just pass him like, excuse me, can I just pass between you and the beheaded body over there? Anyway, you look at it's just outside the artillery barracks, and this guy who died, Rigby, also listened to how they set the whole thing up to affect your subconscious. His name was Rigby, so most people think of Eleanor Rigby. Eleanor Rigby, do. Sad. You have the bad guys dressed very much in black. If you look at that, there are two films of the same guy. There are two cameras. They're taken from two different angles. If you look at where the different shoots of him and also on one, he's got no blood on his hands. On the other one, he's got extremely red hands. Even though there's absolutely no blood on his clothes, you can also see that his face color is a lot darker than the film where he has no blood on his hands. So it seems like they made him even darker face-wise.
Can I just ask you, did somebody die that day?
Absolutely not. I mean, you're welcome to chop my right arm off if somebody died there.
Right.
I tell you.
So do you reckon it was kind of a magician's trick then?
It was a film set, absolutely, and very badly done. I'm just going to go back to if you look at the site, what are the vehicles there? There are two buses. There's one cab that blocks the road in one end, one bus, one cab. Then you got one white truck, exactly like they do the equipment trucks, that is closing up one side road. And then you got another bus in the other end. That's where one of the cameras starts filming from inside the bus. So you got exactly the exact right vehicles for a film set. Also, it's cut off in both ends. There's no traffic coming in. There's no pedestrians, no nothing, even though there's a public school, a primary school. Got the car that's supposed to have gone across the street and knocked this guy over, killed him, or more or less, before they chopped the head off. And then you look at the car, the left front of the car is totally smashed in. If you look at what it looks like when you hit a person, very often what happens is that you've got a slight dent because you're hit from the knees and downwards, or from the hip and downwards. But the major impact is on the windshield. That is not what we see here. Instead, we see a car with no skid marks, with no nothing, no brake marks, anything, and also stands right in front of a signpost. The signpost totally not damaged, and these signposts they're developed to collapse on impact, to avoid any kind of damage, or at least the least damage as possible to humans and vehicles and so on. There's nothing. There's no blood in front of the car to start with on the photos taken to start with. Absolutely no blood on the pavement, no blood with the body in the middle of the street. It just goes on and on. The more details you go into, you even got cue markers in exactly like on a real film set. Exactly, especially for the background, you have they make a cue mark. You go from here to there, okay, from A to B, and then you have to get continuity in the different film takes. You have to go, okay, background action, go back to point A, thank you, and background action, go, and then action for the real actors. We see exactly the cue markers. Everything is there.
Jerry on our chat facility here said that Chris Vivey is promising a book length expose of the Woolwich in the next 2 weeks. It will be released as a PDF, and he has backup plans if anything happens to him in the meantime.
Well, super. Then you have the people around. you got this, there's one, they interview one teenager, and he says that his friend's mother went up to these killers, and you can also see her filmed, like she goes up and talks to these killers. Now, what does she look like? Is she hysterical? Is she somehow upset? No, she walks around poking her nose more or less, talking and then she lies down to the beheaded body, and what the guy says in the interview comforts him. Okay, is that what you would do to somebody that had just lost his head? Literally. I mean, it is so gross what had happened. So there would be total panic. There would be blood everywhere. There would be hysteria. Nothing of this. The natural thing is there. Also, this guy is supposed to have been a soldier. Just outside the Royal Artillery Barracks, there would have been hundreds of his friends inside there that would have just jumped this guy and, knocked him senseless. Nothing. It took 25 minutes for the police to arrive. 25 minutes. If you and I take a rock, throw it through a window, within 2 minutes there's going to be 2 police cars. A thing like this happened. Oh, we just chopped the head of this guy. Take your time. I mean, go buy a pizza and then you can come.
Tell us something. With this whole thing that's going on, with what happened in Woolwich, is this drummer Rigby? Is he obviously alive and sunning himself on some beach somewhere in Mauritius after doing what he was supposed to do for the powers to be?
This is a tricky question. When you got a photo like this, it's very easy with Photoshop. You just take the eyes from one guy, the nose from another guy, you put it together. If you're some kind of skilled guy, I worked with Photoshop for years and years. I can put together a face of someone very easily. Will look perfect. I have no idea if he's a real guy or not. I will definitely say that the people interviewed around this whole thing as girlfriend, these type of things, old friends or people from the church, from these guys that are said to have committed these things, I would very much suspect them not being real people, or also paid by MI6, MI5, whoever was behind this to stage the whole thing. But the important thing is, why was it done? What happened there? Because many of these things with this problem reaction solution is that either they're trying to accomplish a solution to put their agenda forward, or they're trying to divert the attention away from something else. So was there anything else happening just before that? Do you remember that?
I don't know offhand. I couldn't tell you offhand, but I do.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Okay.
The Bilderberg meeting was just about to take place in Watford, just outside London.
Yeah. That's great.
It was the first year that, thanks to people like myself who have been doing this for so many years, trying to reveal what is going on and expose this group, because they're one part of this global elite that are just pushing us into this awful place they want. They could not get away with that their meetings existed. They tried to deny it for years and years and years. In my book, Coup d'etat in Slow Motion, I have the membership list of the Bilderberg Group from 1954 all the way up until today, with all the secret agendas, everything I've been able to get out from these secret meetings and so on.
Do you have any Irish politicians on there?
Yeah, for sure. I don't have them here right now. I should have prepared that. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, because that was because we know one or two Irish politicians, but it'd be good to know who else has attended from an Irish point of view. So if that's something that you can dig out and email us, Ole, then we can mention it on next week's show.
For sure. Or otherwise, if your listeners want to go to my website, Light on Conspiracies, and purchase the book, it's all there's almost 200 pages just of the membership list, because it's very, very telling who are the members, because these are the people that are the sort of the hidden hand that are controlling things. You think that you go to elections that are open and you live in a democracy and so on. Many of these things are rigged, and that by exposing who the members are of these groups, like the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, the members of these three and other societies are the ones that are really pushing forward this new world order.
Okay, I have a question for you, right? What if two of our politicians, say fictitiously, right? Well, this could be true, I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. What if two of our politicians went over to Europe thinking, and they attended the Bilderberg meeting, and they came back, and they were told at the meeting that they had to do X, Y, and Z, and if they didn't, what would they be threatened with? What do you think these Bilderbergers would threaten them? You know, because obviously Ireland is in such a bad state that we can all see it. But these people at the top, our Taoiseach, our Prime Minister, Enda Kenny, and his cohorts, we know that a couple of them have been to the Bilderberg meeting, and obviously they must have been threatened in some way, because there's no way anybody with common sense would know what's going on in the country. So what would they do? I mean, are you familiar with the kind of, because we're going to be talking about radio stations and alternative media areas that have been closed down. So what kind of threats do you think they'd be given?
I don't think they were threatened. If they were members of the Bilderberg, they were invited. You can only join this group by invitation. And what the Bilderberg Group is since 1954, when it was created in Holland, what they do is they handpick people from most Western countries. No, I would say all European and the States. They handpick people in key positions, because if you have if you take a country like Ireland, I would say if you can control 15 or 20 people in key positions, we're talking like top politicians. If there's a royal family, then they will be in it. You got communication bankers, the judge of the Supreme Court, police, the top of the police authorities, media, and so on. If you can control these people, and without the public knowing about it, with the help of these 15, 20, 30 people, you will be able to tweak and push the world or that country in the direction that you want it to go. And this is what they've done country by country by country. If you see the memberships list, you will see that they're all there. People like Tony Blair, Margaret Thatcher, you name it, Gordon Brown, they're all there. And at this point, it's been going on for such a long time. So to get into these key top power positions, it's very hard to get there without being part of this group. So I would say whoever is in power in the government today, for sure, I would say that the chances of them being part of this is very, very big.
Well, they have been over there. Ole, we have two questions for you. Over to you, Steve.
Okay. Yeah, Ole, we've got three questions actually. One more just came in. The first one is from Howie. Howie is wondering, he says, it will be interesting to hear Ole's thoughts on the Ukraine and the colour revolutions, also MH370 and Anders Behring Breivik. I hope I've pronounced that correctly.
Yeah. Oh, big questions, all three of them. The Ukraine, let somebody else talk about that, because I've been so involved with other stuff that I haven't had the time to look into that deeply enough. When it comes to the missing plane, I would say that I think most people are not aware of that at the moment we are in a very, very exciting time, I would say, because I would say that we are at a point where the ship is starting to sink for the global so-called elite, and they're freaking out because suddenly the spotlight is on them. They've been working in the shadows for such a long time. And a few years ago, there was a people's court in a war tribune in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, where some international judges and lawyers subpoenaed George Bush Jr., Tony Blair, Dick Cheney, and there were some other people also. They were tried. They didn't appear in court, but they were tried and sentenced for crimes against peace and crimes against humanity for their illegal waging of war in Iraq and Afghanistan and so on. And so these sentences were brought to the court in Hague, the war court in Hague, and are still there active. So that was the first major step against people like this, because up until now they've been untouchables. And then at this very moment, on the 31st of March this year, the English Queen Elizabeth II of Windsor, and the former Pope Ratzinger, some of the judges are the same, in Brussels, and they have been tried for child genocide. I mean, this is heavy duty. Child genocide. They are being subpoenaed. She did not appear in court, Queen Elizabeth. Suddenly she was too old to travel. I wonder why. But she and Prince Philip have been part of this whole international pedophile gang. That there's been lots of scandals. That is now it's falling apart for them, and they will be tried. They're being tried at the moment, and the sentence will be brought to Hague as well, I think. And so it's crumbling in on them. And I think that when this court case started, me and many other researchers was just waiting to see how are they going to divert attention away from this, because this is a massive thing for media. Have you read about it?
It's not been in there, but we do know that more and more. We've just found out in the last couple of days that Max Clifford, a PR agent in the UK, who deals with a lot of the stars in the UK, has been given 8 years for abuse, paedophilia, basically. It was paedophilia, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Underage, yeah. He's been given 8 years. Now, he's probably one of the lower down minions, but the thing is that Max Clifford has a black book with all the information of the stars and his PR agents. Yeah. So I reckon he'll go into jail, and maybe there might be an accident and his mouth be shut up permanently. And unless, he's given it to somebody else, being a PR man, and saying that if that happens to me in jail, the information's going to get out.
This is happening in quite a few different countries at the moment. So, but what I was saying is that when this court case started on the 31st of March, we were sort of waiting how they're going to divert attention, and then this plane came.
Yeah.
I haven't looked into the details of this plane, but it's very obvious that something very, very strange is going on. I mean, it's crashed there, then it's crashed there, then it disappeared, it arrived, it comes up again, somebody sticks an iPhone up his butt and then takes photos. It's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And I would say it's a very efficient way to pull the attention away from the very serious thing that is going on at the moment, a very big threat towards this global elite. Because if they go for the English Queen, who will be next, I think they're getting very, very scared now. And this is also why they're getting very sloppy. If you see all these mass shootings, all of them false flags, if I'm correct. I've looked into great detail about them. Very, very sloppy nowadays. And most of them, if not all of them, even staged event with actors. It's not even real events anymore. Nobody's getting killed, and they even use the same actors in the same, the same sheriff, 3 different states, same sheriff, same name, same hat. I mean, come on, it's just bad. It
is getting bad. I mean, one of the questions here from Karen is, does he think that does anyone died at Sandy Hook? I mean, without going into detail of Sandy Hook. No, again, it's another false flag. Okay, no, there you go, Karen. That answers that question there. Steve, you've another question for Ole.
Yeah, another two to go. Jerry is one.
Can I just say, after Sandy Hook, or Sandy Hooks, whatever you want to call it, most, if not all, of the mass shooting has been inside military stations. I would say that is because that's inside these walls. They can control all the information coming out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, Ole, Jerry is wondering, do you, where you are now in Spain, do you have any overt surveillance or harassment to contend with from Jerry refers to them as the spooks?
I did not understand this. Have I been threatened or anything like that?
No, I think where you are now, because I know you had to move out of your country because of the threats, but where you are now, is there any threats or any harassment going on where you're living now?
There is, in one way, I've been keeping a very low profile, because very early on, when I started with this, I started seeing that a lot of people dying of suicide, accidents, these type of things, that got their nose in too deep. So early on, I found that there's two different ways to handle a situation like that. Either get the spotlight on you big time, so that if something happens to you, then it will just confirm what you are bringing forward. Or you need to go very, very on the radar, go the stealth way. And that's what I did for years and years. But then in 2012, I decided to get my book out there, this Coup d'etat in slow motion, just get it off my shoulders, because there's so much information in that they try to stop, because it's information gathered from many, many different people, many of them not with us anymore, that I put together in one big book. Anyway, so
you just getting the information out there. No problem. Steve, you have another question there for Ole?
Yeah, sorry, are you finished answering that first one?
No, not really.
Sorry.
Anyway, when I got the book out there on the internet, I gave it out for free for a while, and just to spread it out there so it couldn't be stopped anymore. But that started like a tidal wave of interest, and I've been on, I don't know how, countless radio interviews, like 3 to 5 a week ever since. And everything has been really taking off. There's an incredible interest, and I had loads of inquiries. People were buying the books. I was getting donations. I'm not a rich man at all, but I need to feed my family and so on. So it was so welcome, these kind of things. Then in the beginning of March, I started naming 2 serial killers that have been used as head cleaners, as they call them, since the early 60s all the way up until today. They have been they have a track list of more than 1,000 people each. Their name is Clyde Forshaw, and the other one is Walter Tubinsky, both of them located in Toronto. And they've been used by the CIA and the governments of the States and Canada as well to clean up after these different big hits like JFK and so on, taking care of witnesses, police officer, you name it, they've been the ones cleaning up. But after I started naming these people, my God, I was hammered. Overnight, my website was just blown to pieces. The server was attacked again and again and again. My PayPal account was, somebody got in there and screwed everything up. And now I'm slowly getting back. I've got everything working again. But there's some kind of filter. I don't know how it works, but some kind of digital filter going on, because I look at the statistics. I've had more than 100,000 hits on the website. I got loads every day, but there's no inquiries, no book sales, no donations, no nothing. And I spoke to a digital expert in the States, a journalist over there. He said, for sure you've been targeted. So I just want to expose this, because I'm sure I'm not the only one. And also 4 different radio shows that I've been on has been shut down. I'm not saying because of what I said, but because of the type of information that I and other people they invite are putting out there. Their YouTube accounts have just been deleted. They've been charged, because of legal things around the material, which they own totally. So there's absolutely no need for it. But they try to hit back like that. And more or less every show I'm on, there's some kind of technical problems. The server shuts down, like your server just shut down. The telephone system goes down. It's like they're trying to hit back with these people can control the technical parts of this whole thing, and so that is one of the ways they hit back.
Okay, Ole. So what you're saying is you're a bloody jinx.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, well, only messing with you.
No, it's just kind of Irish humour. It just means that you kind of bring bad luck follows you wherever you go.
Well, what can I say?
No, sure. When you wind you up, when you messing with you. No, that's pretty bad. The fact that we've had this before, Ole. We've been attacked. We've had antennas stolen. We've had our broadband cut when we had a guest coming on the week beforehand, a lady called Seven, exposing the media side of things. She was a creator of certain TV shows, and her ideas were stolen. And we've been attacked, and even there was 1 or 2 individuals in the alternative media side were having to go at us. And, when somebody in the alternative media side starts having to go, you think, where are you? Who's paying your check, Who's paying your money? I can understand, the mainstream media or somebody from outside having to go, but when somebody on the inside, on the alternative media, starts having to go at you, you think, okay, there's something wrong with this picture. They should be supporting us, not attacking us. So yeah.
I tell you, I've been very disappointed many, many times by people that I thought, my God, this guy would be someone I could trust. But it's a very strange world to get into, this world of conspiracies, because many people with multiple faces. You don't know who to be able to trust. Also with the Freemasonry network. But also it's very easy to get paranoid. You start seeing things that are just happening, but you start seeing that there's somebody behind it doing it to you. I'm just putting this out there because I've got to confirm that I've been targeted, and I just want to, by exposing it, then maybe put the spotlight on it so that they might back off, because it will just confirm what I and other people are saying.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and you and a few other people are targeted because of the information you're putting out there. We do appreciate the risk and the information that you're giving us on the show to put it out there. One of the questions that came in there from one of our listeners was, who do you feel is at the top of the pyramid?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't go there because there's so many different theories, and I have absolutely no idea. I keep on the street level. I mean, I identify the assassins, I identify drivers, how the things were carried out, and I take it to the level of the Bilderberg meeting, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, and so on. What is above that, the Illuminati, the Jesuits, you name it, I have no idea. It's so time-consuming anyway, these things. So I leave that to other people that are more skilled in these areas.
I mean, that's a bit of a conspiracy in itself, because a lot of people have their own ideas, and there's certain roads that you could go down, and people will say, well, you're mad. But then again, the whole idea about open your mind is to open your mind. Again, it's something that we always say on our show, and we quote Aristotle, is the ability to, the mark of an educated mind is to be able to entertain the thought without, accepting it. It doesn't mean that you have to accept the idea, but to be able to entertain it is the important thing, and to be able to talk about it. Like Ole, some people think that it's actually beyond human. That might be.
I know that. I know that. I know about reptiles. I know about these type of, but I don't know. I mean, you can hear, I can come with theories on my point of view, but I mean, that's not important, I think. I try to stay to facts that I know about. Otherwise, I'm just another one who's babbling away.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, it's something that, we don't have a problem talking about the subject matter. We can't prove it because we're not there. We don't have information, but we try and deal with facts as much as we can. We've no interest in conspiracy theories, really, because what's a theory? So conspiracy fact is what we want to look at, and data, information, and to some situations that we'll never be in. We'll never be FBI agents. We'll never be CIA agents. So we have to rely on people who have been in there, and if we can cross-reference that with other people who don't know each other but are saying the same thing. Everything is up for manipulation. All data, all information is open and up for manipulation. So again, you just have to kind of keep an open mind and use your own discernment with the information. And if you have any understanding or interest in psychology, the human nature and what humans are like. And now, obviously, psychopaths and sociopaths seem to lack. They do lack empathy, and we do have a habit of putting our morals on other people, and because we wouldn't do it, we feel that they wouldn't do it, but that's completely wrong. You can't do that. You have to remember that these people are just don't have any empathy. We will get to kind of to the solutions, but as you say, what else have you come across in your travels when you've been talking to radio stations and media outlets? Is there any of the news there that you need to get out, or any of the things that we need to know about, or our listeners need to know about? I mean, have you come across, You know, you said there that radio stations were closed down and other media outlets, and they were having problems. Is there any big radio stations that you've spoken to where they've had trouble? Anybody that we know?
I don't know if you know Talk Radio Europe. I was on there in 2009. We were one of the first radio stations in Europe going out talking in great details about the global elite naming names, chemtrails. We had people on about the vaccination hoax. We had David Icke on. We had Alex Jones and people like that. And that station, I mean, it was working fine. Every time the program was on, it was just, everything was knocked out. You know, it was just incredible. And in the end, what happened one night when the last show I was part of, when I was on my way home, because the host was getting scared, because there was just too much, and he had some strange emails and stuff. And when I tried to phone him about an hour after the show, suddenly my mobile, I have no idea what happened, but it just like started shaking very violently. So I dropped it. It was just like there was like an electric currency in it. So I dropped it, and it was when I picked it up, it was totally blank. So I thought, oh my God, what happened? And then later the same night, when he was asleep, his mobile did exactly the same. So in my opinion, paranoid, I don't know, but I read it as a message, just like when they were in my apartment, like, we see you, back off. So at that point, I felt I'd done everything I could up to that stage, so I backed off, you know, because you need to be clever as well. If you keep pushing and they say, we see you, we warn you, if you keep pushing, you end up 6 feet under, and that's no fun.
Okay, do you think that your apartment could be bugged?
Now?
Yeah.
I tell you, I don't care, because I go out totally open with what I say. My books are in my own name. I've gone from the stealth part to get the spotlight on me, you know.
Yeah.
So now I feel more secure. Also, when naming these serial killers and so on, if something happens to me, I just want to say once again, if something happens to me, I'm not depressed. My car is working fine. I have absolutely no problems in life that would, you know, cause me to end my life.
Yeah.
I would point the finger at Clyde Forshaw and Walter Topinski, or people connected to them. You know, this is one way to just get a little insurance. I mean, you're never safe with these type of powers, but that's the way I played the game. So, am I being? I mean, the whole internet is controlled. So anything you put on Facebook or your emails or whatever, if they want to see it, they can see it. If they want to check out what you're doing, they check out what you're doing. So you just need to know, okay, I'm being observed. Do not be stupid, but I'm not going to be shut up either. So know the game, the rules of the game, and don't be stupid.
Yeah, I totally agree. I sent an email to James Gilliland there earlier, and he said, sorry, there was obviously a delay with the email. He said the NSA was probably reading it first, you know. So we have a bit of a sense of humour with it as well, because we know they're watching. But let's look at the positive side, Ole. Let's look at what's going on globally on the planet and the changes. We know about the Fukushima. We know about we're being radiated. That's still happening there. And I don't know, there's so much going on from a negative point of view with chemtrails and everything else, and people getting more and more sick and repossessions. But where you know, what's changing? You know, we talked just before the show where you said, it's like, you know, I said about the seesaw, and you said, yeah, we're over the tipping part. We're on, you know, we've passed that stage. So tell us the good stuff. Tell us what you're hearing and what you've come across.
Well, like I told you, I've been on this road for 30 years, and it's been a very lonely road for many, many years, because people looked upon me like being crazy, paranoid, all of these things. Now, there's an incredible awakening going on. I mean, it's just, people are popping up everywhere. People are so interested. It's come to a point where no one can deny that there's so much strange things going on. You know, so I feel super positive about the future. I think we're heading towards a beautiful, beautiful place. We just need to stay focused, not bend down, you know, stand side by side, in non-violence, I'm totally against violence, because if you go the violent way, they will just use that as a reason to not hit you back. And they're so much stronger when it comes to violence and weapons and all of these things. So that is not the way to go. Also, if you study revolutions over the centuries, you will see that the people who take over in a revolution, listen to the word revolution, it repeats itself, and they often get worse, you know. So that's not the way to go. The way to go is evolution, how to raise ourselves and transcend above this. And I would say one of the ways is exactly what we're doing. We're just putting the spotlight on them, saying, we see you. It's just like you have a magician, and he's been able to pull off a trick for years, you know. He does it again and again, and you buy it until you suddenly see that he's actually not doing the trick with his left hand. He's doing it with the right one that is behind his back. Once you see it, he won't get away with it anymore. You know, the game is over. And now there's so many people seeing that, oh my God, false flag again, false flag again, false flag again. This is going on, that is going on. He's a Bilderberg, she's a Bilderberg. They, you know, all of these things. And I think it's a super wonderful time to be alive. Very challenging, yes.
Yeah.
Very scary,
yeah,
at times.
Yeah.
But I would say focus, do not go into fear mode, because they're trying to push us down with fear through media and all of these, you know, pushing us down, because on an energetic level, which they are very much aware of, this group of people, it sounds like New Age. It is not, I tell you. They're trying to push us down by fear and terror and all of these things, so that we will be depressed. We would be pushed down by mortgages and all of these things. They won't get us to a state where we get hungry. If we get hungry, they have a revolution on their hands. So they try to push us down as far as they can without the hunger feeling, you know. So just squeeze us. That's where they can control us. But if you, instead of going into fear and depression and all of these things, if you fill your heart with gratitude, I'm talking now how you raise your energy. If you fill your heart with gratitude, love, it sounds like a wee word, but real love. I'm not talking about love that I fancy you, honey, if you do this for me. I'm talking about the frequency of love. If you fill yourself with that love, the stronger you get. The cells in your body just go, yeah, baby, let's rave, you know. And you build stronger and stronger and stronger. And the stronger you are in yourself without hatred, the more difficult you are to control. And one of the best way to build up your energy is by helping someone else. You know, there's so many people around you needing help. Go out, help them, hug a tree, hug a neighbor, hug a police officer, spread it like that. Do drive-by random acts of kindness. You know, that one. Get away from their track. They want you to get into the violent way. That's where they can control you. They want to scare you. Do not get scared. Stand straight. I mean, we're talking Mahatma Gandhi, we're talking Martin Luther King, that type. It takes courage. But look what Gandhi accomplished. He got rid of the English Empire without weapons. I mean, how is that possible? But it was. You know,
yeah,
so I would strongly say that this is the way to go.
I do agree that service to others and service to self, but not in a selfish way. We have to lose the ego. Because the ego, we're in a very egotistical world, and we need to lose that and get away from it. And once you get away from that, understand it and get away from it, I do think things get better. And you understand, and self-awareness, be aware of who you are and what you are. Energy, yeah, I mean, if you look at it from a scientific point of view, you know, if you get a microscope and look at, you know, your skin, if you were to put a microscope in your skin and drill down, you're going to see atoms vibrating and resonating on a frequency. The same thing, if you look at a table, it'll be the same thing. So we all, energy is just resonance, and we resonate on a frequency. I mean, that's all it is. End of story. That's all. We're all the same. Different frequencies, but it's the same thing. We're just energy. And we have to, again, as you say, we have to move away from the fear. And I think you get to a certain stage in life. And, you know, there's obviously, sometimes, depending on the situation, can be a little bit of fear. Sometimes you can be fearless, but you fear for other people around you, maybe. That's the other thing. But we need to be aware of that. But, Steve, you have a few questions there.
Yeah, well, before I go into the couple of questions, I just want to say that this is kind of totally unrelated, but it's maybe a little bit to do with love for other human beings. But I found myself in Dublin today, and myself and my wife were walking by a guy. He was sitting outside a shop. He was homeless. Now, he did ask me if I had any spare change, and to be completely honest, I didn't. We had just been in the shop, and we were after buying a few bits for the kids, and I had what I had was about 50 cents, and I figured, you know what, I wouldn't insult the guy by giving him 50 cents, and we walked on. We had a quick chat with him, then we walked on, and my wife said, you didn't give him that, and I said, well, you know what I had to give him, it would have been an insult to the guy, but I said we stopped him, we gave him some of our time, and I have to admit, he was homeless, right, but he had a pack of cigarettes and a 6-pack of beer, and I thought, wow.
You don't even have that.
I don't even have that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Right, anyway, the question, Ole, is from Chris. And Chris is wondering, does Ole know anything about the alleged existence of greys? And when he's talking about greys, he's obviously speaking about aliens.
There's some areas I don't go into. The only reason for that is because I don't want to lose credibility with the stuff that I know about.
Yeah.
I stay away from UFOs, even though I'm not saying I don't believe them. I'm not saying that I don't know a lot about them. I stay away from UFOs, aliens, and reptiles. These areas.
No, that's fair.
No, that's fair point. Yeah, it's fair point. I know what you mean.
Because that will otherwise, just like Ike and so on, I fear that I will lose credibility when I talk about the JFK assassination and other things like that, where I've devoted my life to. If I go into these areas, I don't want to.
Well, we came across that during the week, and there was a radio interview with one of our up-and-coming politicians, Mr. Ben Gilroy, and he gave a radio interview, and because he has kind of mentioned in the past, he's touched on certain subjects, and rather than concentrate the interview on his political career, the fact he's running for office, the interviewer decided, I'm going to concentrate on all the negative things. So you know other stuff that he may have mentioned in the past, and I fully understand where, and I'm sure our listeners do too. They fully understand where you're coming from. That all the good information that you have, say in relation to JFK assassination, other stuff like that, when you start putting that out, if you had even touched remotely, even slightly on alien stuff or UFO, then someone would just come up and that's all they would concentrate on. They would harp on about that. So we know exactly what you mean. Yeah. And that's a fair point. That's fair enough.
Okay, that's it on the question side.
That's on the questions. Just one comment here from, this is Professor Chaos on the People's Internet Radio chat room, and he just said this earlier, and I totally agree. We were talking about open minds. He said an open mind is all well and good, but your mind hasn't got a firewall. Don't let any old nonsense in. And that just reminded me of something that we kind of say that here as well, that we, no matter what we say or any of our guests say, that you always have to use some discernment.
You have to use some discernment. It doesn't mean because you have an open mind you're going to believe everything. I think this comment was made last week on the chat room as well, one of the chat rooms, that because you have an open mind, it's probably perceived that you believe everything. It's not at all. The fact is you have an open mind is that you can entertain the thought without accepting it. Okay, that's the difference. The whole idea of an open mind is that you don't mind your belief system being challenged. I mean, if you want to, for Ole, this is the way kind of we talk about this, but if you want to find out if a person has an open mind, challenge their belief system, and depending on their reaction will depend on whether they have an open mind or not. Because there's a lot of people out there who will say, oh, I have an open mind, and when you challenge their belief system, they're defending it to the hilt. So, and that's the difference. This is about, somebody says something, you go, oh, that's interesting. You don't have to believe it. But you just can see, talk it as you might say the subject might be time travel. And even if you don't believe in time travel, you can say, well, what if time travel did exist? What would you do if it did exist? And how would you go about it? Talk about it. It doesn't mean you have to believe in it. So I do think that's why we quote Aristotle all the time. But Ole, I know what you mean about certain areas that you don't want to go into. And we do cover everything. It doesn't mean that because we have somebody on the show talking about greys or UFO or aliens, doesn't mean we're going to believe everything that they're talking about. It's just a topic of discussion. And if you look at shows like in America that are like Coast to Coast, Art Bell and all, I mean, they had millions and millions of listeners, and they really talked about far out subjects more than we do. So there is a hunger for the information, but it's obviously down to the listeners to listen to the information. Like we'll get you on tonight, we'll talk about your experiences and your background, and it's up to the listener to decide using discernment whether they want to believe it or not, or go off and research the subject matter that you talk about. And that's what it's all about: getting the information out there and letting the public decide.
Do you know, on the back of my book, Coup d'etat in Slow Motion, I've written exactly like that. Read the book, make up your own mind. Don't swallow it just because I say this is the truth. Do your own research, and if you find that this could be the truth, then spread it.
Yeah, definitely do the research. Definitely do the research. But it's the challenge that I give people is that if you're going out there, as Mark Pazio, he was on the show a few weeks ago, and he said about going out and waking people up. And this cognitive dissonance, which seems to be now, something that we have said a few times on the show, is that people will not break out of their own belief system. They're just stuck in their belief system, and no matter what way you approach it or evidence you give to them to prove it, they just won't break out of it. They just won't get it. They'll be stuck in their belief system, and they're people that are suffering from cognitive dissonance. So that's just the way it is. Now, apparently, Ole, I don't know whether you know, but we've talked about this on the show before. They're trying to put a condition on people like ourselves who actually think outside the box, and we're not the sheeple, and they're trying to start medicating people on this, saying that, oh yeah, well, if you don't think like the masses, then obviously you're weird, or there's something medically wrong with you, so you're going to need a drug. Have you heard that over where you are?
I mean, they tried to do that with fluoride for years and years. They tried to do it with taking away, banning vitamins. They're trying to dumb us down. But I wouldn't be surprised. This thing, I haven't heard about it before, but I mean, it fits in perfectly. But I would just say that I can totally understand so-called sheeple. I mean, these are beautiful people with a different mindset. And it's very painful for most people to wake up, especially the more set your mindset is, the more painful it is to wake up, especially if you find out that you've been supporting this for decades with your silence and your brain made of concrete, so stubborn. And I would suggest that the only person that you can change is the one in the mirror. The only one you can change is yourself. So do that. And then try and live by example. Don't push this down the throat of other people. They will not welcome it. If people are really interested, then talk. If they're not interested, then be quiet. That's what I've done for years and years. I didn't say a thing for years until people started opening up and saying, this is a bit interesting. Could you please tell me more? And then, okay, fine. How many hours do you want? I can be here all night. And then it's welcomed, and it really hits home instead of you. But there's different stages of waking up. I mean, most people that become aware of these conspiracies and the whole global agenda, first they get freaked out and they get so obsessed with it and they get so intense about all this dark. So everybody around them are like, oh my God, can you give me a break? I can't hear anything more because it's just black. And then I would say it takes a very balanced person to be able to stand in this darkness and still see the light. And it's taken me many years. I feel very, very positive now. I come from being very scared and paranoid. I've gone through all of these different stages. And I would just say, live by example, be kind, do kind things, raise the energy around yourself. Do not buy into fear. And don't judge so much. I mean, most of the people, even police officers, all of these that are actually protecting their agenda, they don't even know about themselves. It's so compartmentalized. Even assassinations and stuff. The people that are involved, they hardly know who they're killing, they only know their little part. It's so chopped up. So once again, I would just try and live by example and deal with this.
Definitely. I think, well, look, they're either part of the solution or part of the problem. And I know what you mean. I totally agree with you. The issue is when somebody does challenge your information that you're talking about, and then you say, well, here's all the research and all the guests and all the stuff that I've done. Can you show me what you've done? Because if you have better information than I do, then fantastic. But 99% of the people who challenge your information have done no research. And as far as I'm concerned, if they are kind of having a go at your information and they have done none, they're insulting your intelligence and your work and everybody else that you've been dealing with and all the guests. So that's very disrespectful in my eyes. So...
But it's also a great practice of keeping the balance, even under pressure, grace under pressure.
Oh, definitely. Well, that's why you have to kind of say, look, you're not ready for this information. When you're ready, we'll talk. And then just leave it at that. Don't waste time with it, because I think it is, when you start on this road, it's a case of you tend to want to tell everybody. And it's like a big secret, as Steve says, and you want to tell everybody. But then you realise that, hang on, people aren't getting it because maybe they're just not ready for it. It's not their time. So, as you say, just leave it, and then when they start inquiring about it, then you can say, oh, well, here's some information, here's, and depending on the issue, it doesn't have to be who's at the top of the pyramid. It might be, I'm going to get evicted and the banks are picking on me, can you help me? And, well, here's a book and here's some information, and that'll be enough to get them started on the road.
For sure.
Definitely. So
I think that is very wise. Don't take on the whole world and leave that to specialists in that area. Deal with your own life and see what can you do to make life better. What can you do to make the world better around you, to the people around you? How can you treat your family better? How can you make sure that you don't end up in the street? Don't take mortgages on that you can't. The name mortgage, it actually means death. It's a French word, mortgage. And so learn about these, study the different things, see how they're trying to control us, and then go another way, take another route, and all the time help people around you.
Definitely, I totally agree. Service to others is very important. We are heavily fluoridated here in Ireland. 98% of Europe are not fluoridated, and we are. There's a big fight on at the moment over here, trying to remove the fluoride from the water, and we feel that will probably hopefully be a big help. But do you feel that the energy's hitting the planet now at the moment, or do you feel that they are changing, that things are changing in a big way?
I think so. I think we're in an amazing way, and I think in one strange way you should almost take it as a compliment that there's fluoride in Ireland. It's just because you're such strong individuals, and I mean, what it's like to be on the seashore. You know what it's been to be in war and all of these things, and you're still strong. You're still happy. You're still standing. That's why they're trying to hit you with these type of things. Sweden, they're asleep. There's no need for fluoride. They won't do anything anyway. But it's a different thing with you. It's a different thing with Greece. It's a different thing with more. I didn't mean it as a compliment, but do you see what I'm saying?
No,
there's a reason why they targeted you. There's a reason they use it in the prisons in the States, especially. They double the dose for the prisoners and so on, just to keep them calm. And now I would say one of the reasons they are legalizing marijuana and so on, it's not because suddenly, this wonderful plant, which is an amazing plant when you look into it. It's an absolute miraculous plant that can be used for so many different things. And that was banned by the Rockefellers, not because of the drug thing, but because it was such a threat to the oil industry. But anyway, now they're legalizing it. Why? I would say to try and pacify the masses, to sort of get oil on the waves, to calm people down. Fluoride, marijuana, all these type of things, just calm them down so that they can get away with it, so that they can close the gate around us.
Definitely.
But it's not going to work.
Well, I think you're right there. The 4 nations that they want to keep down, because we are very rebel, It's rebellions and we're a very fighting nation. The four nations that you want to keep down are the Native American Indians, the Irish, the Scots, and the South Africans.
It says itself, doesn't it?
Because we are all...
It's the Fab Four,
Yeah, we are all fighters. That's the thing. I mean, if you look at history, that's what you'll see. You'll see the Irish, the Scots, the Native American Indians, and the South Africans and fighting. And this is why Ireland was apparently one of the key countries to be experimented on to do this, because they were afraid of what would happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's a logic behind everything. And why did they do it there? You just answered it. Why don't they do it in Sweden? Because it's a very, very lame country when it comes to these things. I say they use Sweden as like a test run area at the moment for a cashless society. They're really pushing that forward in Sweden. And if they get away with it there, which they almost done now, they would just move it as almost like a franchise to the next country, and then the next, and the next, and the next. So they try out in different areas. Definitely,
and we are, as I say, there's a big fight on at the moment with fluoride in Ireland. We're trying to get it out there. Do you have any questions, Steve, while we're okay at the moment?
No, there's no questions coming. Okay. People are just kind of commenting on stuff that's being said there by Ole, and a lot of people actually agreeing with what he says.
Yeah, I do think that there's a massive awakening. There's people I've come across, Ole, probably like yourself, that you would never have thought. I mean, Steve will tell you this, so just keeping an eye on the time there, but Steve, you can vouch for this. People that you wouldn't think have woken up to what's going on, but yet they're beginning to ask questions and start researching stuff.
Well, look, just as a very quick example, I was at home this evening before I came up, and my wife and my sister are in one room and they're talking. Now, for a long time, I will be giving out pieces of information, stuff that I've learned, and I'll be talking to other people, and I'd often mention to my sister, and a lot of the time my sister thought I was a conspiracy theorist, and she kind of she'd politely smile and go, and she'd roll the eyes, the typical rolling the eyes up, and so I don't talk about this kind of stuff with her anymore. It's just general chit chat and general conversation. But I actually don't know what she was talking about to my wife this evening before I left, because I had to leave. But I'm going to find out when I go home, because I definitely heard her talking about something, and whatever it was she said, and sure, Stephen was saying something like that before, and she was talking, but it was like about, I don't know if it was maybe the return to sender method for notices, but I'll find out when I get home. But it was interesting to hear her mentioning my name, saying that was something that I had said before. So even people like her, like she's starting to wake up.
But I tell you also one thing, I'm sure that you have stopped trying to persuade her, and that has also made the change in the whole, opening up of her.
Absolutely, yeah. I found that in the beginning, Ole, when I was learning information. I was like a child with a new toy. I wanted to show everybody. And
doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. And I've lost friends, and I've actually lost a family member because of
club.
It. Yeah, So I quickly learned that the best thing to do is, and I think this is something Alan said to me, if you're going to be giving people information, give it in such a way that it's like, oh yeah, sure, everybody knows that, and don't try and convince them. Just kind of pass it off. Let them go and do their own research if they're interested. But yeah, I've stopped trying to convince people.
Yeah, no, that's because it's like, as you say, it's a big secret that you want to go out and tell everybody, and then we kind of pushing your opinion down their throat and everything else. And they're just going to resist it, basically. So, as I say, even on last week's show, the week before that, we talked about knowledge being on a path. We're on a path of knowledge. And some people are further down the road than others. And some people are not ready for this information. But they'll come to it eventually. And as we said, with the consciousness of the planet increasing, threefold, fourfold, it's amazing how many people are beginning to wake up, and it's fantastic. But we've reached that time, Ole, that we just have to finish up now. But listen, a big thank you for coming on to the show, coming back on and giving us an update of everything that you've been doing and what you've been involved in. And we wish you good luck with what you're doing, and I hope nothing happens your end. And we have the broadcast that's going to be the podcast will be available after the show shortly. And
listen, could I just finish with a short prayer?
Yeah,
I'm not religious, but There's a prayer that I really feel strongly about, and it goes like this. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who hurt us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. Victory to that light.
Very good.
Beautiful.
That's a good one. Beautiful and non-religious. Very good. Listen, that's fantastic. I'm going to pass you over to Steve. Steve's going to get all your details off you, and then you can let everybody know where they can find you. Steve.
Excellent.
Ole, yeah, a big thanks from me as well. It's been a pleasure, a privilege, and a lot of what you said there, it makes perfect sense. You've once again renewed our faith in people like you. You know that there are people who are not afraid to stand up and be counted, because so far, you know, there's a lot of people that we've seen. People kind of they whisper in groups and they whisper in corners, but a lot of people are afraid to stand up and actually be counted. And you're one of few people who has done that. And I'm guessing you've put your life on the line. You've obviously had to change your whole perspective on life and change your country of residence as well. So fair play to you, and a big thanks here from everyone at OYM. In saying that, there's probably more people out there who are listening who want to find out more about you. I'd say you've probably only whetted their appetite. So can you give us your website address, your YouTube channel? Now, I know you did say there was some hacking going on, but
I think I sorted everything. My website is lightonconspiracies.com. Very hand-picked word, light on conspiracies. I'm not here to spread fear or hate or anything like that. On the contrary. And one of my books is called Coup d'etat in slow motion. It's about the assassination of the Swedish Prime Minister, but also with all the different angles that goes globally and how the whole thing is connected. I would also say that since I've been targeted, since I'm more on my knees financially, you said you saw somebody and you thought 50 cent would make a difference. I'm telling you, 50 cent can make a big difference to someone if they don't have it. So if there's anyone out there who would like to support me, I would be so grateful. I'm willing to stand in the line of fire. I'm willing to do the research. I need help though. I need support. And in the area where I'm weak at the moment is financial. So if anyone wants to buy my book or sign up for my newsletter or become a member or anything like that, I'm extremely grateful for that.
Brilliant. Well, hopefully, as I say, this podcast is going to be broadcast 24/7 for the next week, and it'll be available on our site after that. Anybody can download and listen to it. So if anybody's interested, please head over to Ole's website there, buy the book, find out who's in the Bilderberg. There you go. Buy the book, get all the information. We find out what Irish politicians are in there. That'd be interesting to find out who's there. But Ole, just stay with us there for a minute. We're going to go off to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
YMCA! Why not YMCA? Bit of YMCA Village people there. Yeah. I actually had another song lined up, and then I must have been divine inspiration. I figured, you know what? People just need to have a bit of a jump around the living room.
Do you remember them days?
I hope they all were.
Remember them days in the disco? YMCA, the innocence of it all.
No.
No? No, okay. That was me then, wasn't it?
That was you, yeah.
Oh my God. Well, that's brilliant guest. Ole Dammegard. And we wish Ole all the best. Pop over to his site if you want to check him out, all his information there. Very interesting, what he was talking about. And, you know, I think the energy is changing, things are changing, people are beginning to wake up. And we need to get the information out there. And everybody who listens to this show is a soldier in the fight to get the information out there and wake people up. That's as simple as that. Whether you have a very good understanding of the high levels and echelons of the pyramid, or the Illuminati, or somebody just wants to know about the banks and how they're screwing us, hey, you know, just give them the information they're asking, and then that will put them on the ladder to probably finding out more and wanting more. Okay, so we're all in this, you know, what you're doing for the war effort, that's what it really boils down to. So, next week, why are you looking at me like that?
I just had a thought. YMCA. We should do our version of that instead of YMCA, it'd be OYM. OYM.
Yeah, I think we're missing a letter there.
As I say, just put a pin in it. Let's not dismiss it.
Right, okay. No worries. Right, next week we have the United We Strike Radio Marathon. It's going to be on the Saturday. So if you have time, if you're knocking about, tune in. We'll have loads and loads of guests on. Now, the plan of attack, I'm not going to say this is going to happen during the week because Dr. Rima seems to be very elusive at the moment, but we're hoping to do a pre-record with Dr. Rima for the United We Strike Marathon on the Saturday, and then hoping to do a full interview live with Dr. Rima on the Sunday. That's the plan of attack. Now, I did post up her website earlier on the chat room in OYM, and on that her website, she does sell the hemp oil. You can buy 1 syringe, or you can buy 6 syringes of the hemp oil. And she does chocolate, CBD chocolate, and she does loads of hemp products, organic hemp oil to cook with, and just loads and loads of stuff there. So pop over to the site and check it out and see what you think. I'm just gonna see if I can. Oh, it's not there. Okay, I'll have to try and get it again. But it is on the chat room there. Yeah, she sells loads of products. But I think it'd be good having Dr. Rima on, and she can explain herself what the whole situation is and what she's doing. And she's very good.
You did say, didn't you, that you ran it past herself, and you also ran it past the customs and excise as well, just for people who may be joining late, that to bring the hemp oil in, to import it, obviously a small amount for personal use seems to be okay. Is that correct?
Well, it seems to be okay. I'm just trying to get the website here because people are asking for it again. But according to the customs, they said that if it's for personal use, then there should be no reason why you can't get in. Okay? So, excuse me, I don't really know. I'm not going to turn around and guarantee and say to you that, yes, it's going to be guaranteed. You have to do your own research. I queried it, and according to the feedback coming back, but you know what it's like over here in Ireland. You know, they turn around and say, yeah, it's fine, and then you actually order it, and it comes in, and it gets stopped, and there'll be all sorts of things. There you go. I posted the site in the OYM chat and the People's Internet Radio chat, so you can check it out yourself and have a look at the products. But we hope to have Dr. Rima on. She's very astute, very good doctor. But yeah, do your own research.
And anyone who may be thinking about maybe bringing it in or trying to bring some of the hemp oil in, just check out, there's an actual movie or a film that I watched a couple of months ago, and I recommended it. It was my wife wanted to see it, so we actually watched it. It's called The Dallas Buyers Club, and it's quite interesting. Well, I won't tell you what it's about. If you haven't seen it, it's quite interesting. It's just about a guy who wanted to help people, and he was stopped at every hand's turn, but he kind of found a way of doing it, and it was kind of interesting. But anyway, there you go. Dallas Buyers Club. I think it's Matthew McConaughey is in it. Very skinny, very, very skinny Matthew McConaughey, I might add. And Alan's just trying to find his information there.
Yeah,
you found it?
Well, just this person here from the you don't stay. I just asked about natural oils, important natural oils, and he gave me an email got to do with the enforcement at imb.ie and a few other things, derivatives and various other emails. So I sent out emails to different people, and I gave them a link to the stuff. I mean, I literally gave them the link straight to what I was talking about regarding the hemp oil. And he says here, are these products being imported for personal use? If this is the case, then there is no restrictions from a food safety point of view. So that's the food safety point of view. For more information on food imports, please go to this link. If you are actually selling it as a kind of product, then it's a different kettle of fish altogether. So, and that's one guy. And then there's another email I can't find. It's somewhere around here, and it's from another department which I asked, and they said that seemed to be okay too. But look, you know, at the end of the day, they can say all they like. You know, whether, you know, there could be still a chance that something might get caught on the way in. So, you know, I'm not going to turn around and say to you, yeah, no, for sure, it's fine. But I want to talk to Dr. Rima and ask her, has she sent this to Ireland and her products to Ireland, and did they get through? So that's one of the things I want to be asking her, you know, on the list. And if I do forget, don't forget to remind me. Somebody on the chat will remind me. Do you know who's on People's Internet Radio later on?
No, I've sent Vin a message and he hasn't got back. But it's always good anyway. I know it'll be Vin probably just himself. But I know he does take some phone calls from time to time. So I'm sure it'll be interesting. Whatever the conversation of choice is tonight, and whoever's going to be on, it's always interesting.
Yeah, just there's a lot of things coming our way with the property charge, with the water meters. Did I mention it during the week? I actually kicked this guy was actually outside my house testing the water meter. I was attempting to open up the shower to test the water meter, and basically I told him to I removed his implied right of access to the property and told him that he was trespassing. And I read him the Riot Act, and basically he just said, well, can I finish off my job? And I said, no, put the shower back and go. So I sent him off on his bike. And
you kicked his ass.
I kicked his ass, and he trotted away, and I haven't seen him since. Now,
sorry, you just said he wanted to check the water meter. You don't have a meter yet.
No,
he did.
He wanted to check the shore for whatever he was doing, but he was doing it for the other shores as well. And I just said, well, no, you can't. I said,
sling your hook on your bike.
Your implied right of access has been revoked, so now you're now trespassing. And then I explained to him what implied right of access is, so he could understand why I was saying it.
For anyone who doesn't know and calls to Alan's door, he has the text of implied right of access engraved in his baseball bat. So he says, I have it here if you want to see it.
If you want a close-up. So, look, I don't know whether this guy's going to turn up and start drilling on the shore, but look, it's worth it, it's worth having a go anyway. You have to go out and say these things and see what happens.
Well, you said earlier on about people helping, what are they doing for the war effort? I mean, that's what people can do in Ireland. It's a small step in the right direction. Stand outside on your shore, outside your home, when they do come to install these meters and protest.
Plus the land registry thing, where if your land does extend out to halfway on the road, then, that kind of verifies that that's my property as well. What are you doing on my property? I've no contract with you. So, there you go. That's really what it boils down to. So, you have to kind of do your bit as much as you can. I don't have a water meter at the moment, and I will do my bloody damnedest to make sure I don't get a water meter either. So, but, Steve, mention that quick about the pumps, water pumps, what people are doing.
A lady was on to me about a fortnight, 2 weeks ago, and she did say that she had spoken to a builder, not a Bilderberger, but she had spoken to a builder. Speed it up as quick as I can. She's spoken to a guy, and he said that even if they threaten, I've seen a documentation during the week that says you have to send. Sorry, you go to I can't remember the website off the top of my head, but you print off a letter and you send it to Ishka Air, which is the Irish Water crowd. And you tell them that if they touch it or install anything without your consent or reduce your water pressure, they are committing an offence. However,
the water pump.
Yeah, but if they do reduce your pressure, seemingly you can get a water pump. They're not that expensive. You can have it fitted inside your home, because with the low pressure, it'll mean that the water there won't be enough pressure to send it upstairs if you're in a two-bed home to fill your tank in the attic, so therefore you won't have, you won't be able to flush your toilets and all this carry on, because that comes from that. So you can install a pump under your sink, and it will whatever water is coming in, it will send it upstairs. So therefore, it'd still be low pressure. It may take a while to fill it, but at least you'll be able to flush your toilet.
So there's a tip for you. Check out your water pumps just in case. Okay, we have to go. We're running late. Handing over to Vin. Take care. For myself, Alan James. Have a safe week. We'll catch you later. Don't forget the marathon. Bye bye.
Okay, for myself as well, have a good one. We'll do it all again next week. Take care, bye-bye.